here at the BOK Center, Box Center. I don't know what it's actually called.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
I've called it both of those things.
You're going to have to find out. You're on the broadcast, Jordan Burroughs. How excited are you to be on the broadcast for ESPN?
I'm pumped. I don't do a lot of folk style. I've done a ton of freestyle. I did the Olympics last year. I did the Big Ten Championships in Lincoln last year, but I've never done NCAAs. This is probably the premier event in our sport. So even though I did the Olympics, which many consider the biggest wrestling event in the world, I'm sure we're going to have more viewership this weekend than we did in a week's worth of Olympic Games last summer in Tokyo. So I'm excited. The producer at ESPN, Nicholas Rude, is one of a great friend, but also a former Husker.
Okay.
And so he put the word in for your boy.
There you go.
And I got connected. Go Big Red. So I think it'll be good. I think he appreciates what I do. He's seen me on broadcast before. He knows that I have kind of the chops to do this stuff. So I'm excited, man. It should be fun.
I definitely agree. And obviously you're a huge wrestling fan in general, following your Nebraska Huskers. Talk about the season they've had, man. Because I think coming into the season, the expectations versus what's happened.
Low.
For sure,
I think for everyone. And everyone's chasing Penn State. And so there's tiers to this. You have Penn State at the top. They're kind of in a league of their own. And then there's, other teams that are quality teams, Cornell and Iowa. And then you've got a third tier, and that's kind of where we linger, where that's the 4 through 10. And those guys are all fighting for that last trophy, that last spot on the podium. And coming into the season, knowing that we were going to have to redshirt Rich Lovett, and that we were going to essentially be without our best guy, with a young team, we lost a lot of talent, multiple All-Americans last year. It was a little scary. We weren't sure what we were going to be able to do this year, but in my opinion, Coach Mann is the coach of the year. He brought a team that was preseason ranked 17th in the nation all the way to essentially a top 5 team. I saw in the Win magazine, in terms of the TPI index, Nebraska was tied for second with Cornell. It was Penn State, and then Cornell's tied for second. And that's not mentioned. Cornell's got Vito Arujau, they've got Yanni Diakomahalis, they've got Cardenas, they've got Cornelia, they've got Ramirez. They've got a really deep team. But we do as well. And there have been a lot of guys that have really showed up. And if you watch the way Liam Cronin's career has kind of unfolded to what he's been able to do this year, man, it's been a culmination of just a lot of hard work, a lot of injuries, transfer, a marriage. He's done and accessed a whole lot of different things, but he's a 7th-year guy, right? So a lot of maturity, a ton of understanding, experience. And then our young guys, Lenny Pinto to Silas Allred, Brock Hardy, a new entry into our lineup. Like, all these guys are relatively new, but all well-versed guys, and I think we got a really good squad. Question is, can you put it together at the right time?
Yeah.
The regular season is a lot easier because you can lose and no one really bats an eyelash. You're like, that guy was really tough. Chalk it up to an exam this week and a late night up, a bad weight cut, or sickness. But none of that really matters. This matters. And so I think that this is going to be a pretty historic year for Nebraska. We finished, I believe, 5th last year?
Yeah, right outside.
So we were just right outside looking in. And I think with Ridge Lovett, we have unquestionably a trophy finishing team. But even with this lineup that we have, considering that next year we'll lose Mikey Labriola, but we'll bring in numerous hammers to replace those guys, I think that we have a really good squad. So we're going to be good for a few years to come.
Yeah, it was just announced this week. Final X is going to be in New Jersey, Prudential Center. You're already in that, Jordan. How excited are you for Final X?
I'm excited, man. I got a feeling that the guy that I might be wrestling may be in this tournament right now. So, we'll see. I'm excited. I feel good. I feel strong. Kind of in this position that I'm in, you get prepared for the big stuff. I'm a prize fighter, and so it's hard for me to get ready for the Mateo Pelicone and the Yasar Dogu and the Don Koloff. Like, wake me up when the big stuff's happening, and I'll get ready and come out of hibernation. So I've been feeling good. My body's been holding up well. I feel like I'm in really good shape this time of year in comparison to where I was last year. I haven't competed yet this season, but after wrestling at the World Cup, I was like, okay, I need some time. Like, I need some time to refocus, kind of recommit to my goals and be back to the level that I'm accustomed to competing at.
What were your takeaways from the World Cup in general?
I was out of shape.
Really?
Yeah.
When has that ever happened?
Never. Well, it was just a quick turnaround. So I think that when the World Championships happened, we're like, okay, September here, 7th championship, historic run. Oh yeah, by the way, all these guys are coming back in December and they want to wrestle again at the World Cup, and it's in America. I can't let any other country, especially Iran, come to America without them seeing me first. So regardless of how I feel, what type of shape I'm in, I want to compete, and I want to stand for the United States of America. So it's kind of one of those moments where I'm like, probably shouldn't, not really where I want to be, but I'm a competitor. I can beat anybody no matter how I feel. But yeah, it was one of those things. So I feel good about where I was, but also it kind of renews a rivalry for me, because I'm like, okay, now this is kind of cool. It's been a while since I feel like I've had a competitor that I knew I had to really get up for to beat, right? At 79 kilo, respectfully, it's a much easier weight class than 74 kilo, right? So I'm not thinking about Sidakov, I'm not really thinking about Dake, guys that I have to really get my mindset right for. And this is, I say this respectfully to guys like Chance Marsteller and the rest of the field at 79 kilos, but there's a different level there.
Yeah. You sort of alluded to this guy, but what did you take away from Carter Starocci's performance against Mikey Labarilla, someone you're really familiar with?
Well, I think Carter Starocci is a outstanding wrestler. And I think he's only getting better with time and age. He's starting to come into his own, but he's always been someone that you would consider a formidable opponent. He's not easy to go for anybody, regardless of age or stature. I think the problem is every time he's had a chance to arrive in a position to compete against me, he's got beat. So I'm like, well, man, I know this guy is a phenomenal folk style wrestler. He's won every NCAA championship. He's been competitive at the Big Tens every year, but when he wrestled the U23s, he got beat. I was disappointed. Wrestling last year at the trials, he got beat. Wrestling in 21 at the trials, he got beat. So I'm like, shoot. I think this might be the year that he finally kind of gets over the hump and makes it through. But we'll see, man. There's a lot of great competitors at 79 kilos. I don't have to wrestle at the Open.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys that have something to say about that and about him. And so, listen, I'm chilling. I'm the boss at the end of the video game. I'm hanging out in the suite waiting for these guys to beat up on each other and then come see me.
Last question. 165 has been the weight that's been discussed a ton.
Yeah, bro.
David Carr, Keegan O'Toole, you got national champion Shane Griffith hanging around there, Quincy Monday, etc.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this weight class? Do you have any predictions coming in? And maybe just your impressions of David Carr?
David's going to be a world champion someday.
Think so?
I believe that. I do. He's humble, but he's also hungry, and he listens to his dad. Right? He's a great competitor. He's coachable. He's courageous. So he wrestles with a lot of bravery. He's shown that he's got toughness and grit too. He's not all flash. He's got some substance. After losing early last year, to come back and finish third in a difficult weight class, to going on competing at Junior Worlds and doing what he's done this year, beating O'Toole for a second time, getting a fall in overtime against a great opponent who we pretty much thought was unbeatable after he won it so early. He's one of those guys that I think is going to go on and have a very long career in this sport if he wants to. But then also a guy like Keegan O'Toole, you saw what he did on the world stage. So I think it's deep. It's deep. And you didn't even mention a guy like Julian Ramirez from Cornell, who just beat Quincy Monday in the finals of the EIWAs, and that kid's really tough too. He's finally starting to wrestle with some pace. If I had to make a prediction, it's really hard to say. I think rarely do you see 3 national champs in a weight class. You just really don't find it. It's a rare occurrence. And I think David Carr has kind of put himself at top of the weight class, but he hasn't by any stretch of the imagination separated himself from the rest of the guys, right? He just went into overtime in the NCAA finals. But the great thing is the 2 best guys, who I consider the 2 best, O'Toole and Carr, separated from one another.
Yeah.
So everyone else is going to have to do something extremely special to kind of knock one of those guys off. But if not, we'll have a rematch, and we still don't really know who's going to win.
Yeah.
Because I think after watching the first match, the score wasn't really indicative of the match itself. You're like, okay, if David Carr doesn't reverse his fortune and get that counter takedown at the end of the second period, then we're going into the second period or the third period 4-4. Instead, it's 6-2. This match is over. This guy doesn't succumb to any sort of that type of lead. So, I think that the first one was close. The second one was closer. I don't know who's going to make adjustments, because it's like one of those things. who's feeling better at the end of this? Is it Carr because he won again and got a fall? Or is it O'Toole because he's like, man, I got beat 8-2 and now this was overtime. I'm figuring some things out here.
Yeah.
So I don't really know, bro. I think both are dynamic, but I like Carr's leg attacks a little bit better than O'Toole's. But O'Toole is just a competitor, and he's proficient everywhere. So I'm a big fan of both of those guys. We'll see.
Yeah, same here. Jordan, really appreciate your time. Enjoy the broadcast. Have some
it's gonna
fun.
be fun.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.